Have you ever written yourself into a corner with your book and you realize that either you scrap everything and start over, or you work on fixing the individual problem, but to do that would require you having to adjust everything you've written so far? That's what this video is all about. It's a introduction to my characters for my dark romantasy novel titled Orphans of Divinity. It's the first in a series. And I am making this video primarily because I had worked myself into a corner with my characters, and I've realized as my world has continued to develop and to grow, and I find more out about the world as I write, the characters don't necessarily fit the world I've created. The male main character fits the world I have much better than the female character. I have written the female character to be a little too soft for the world that I've created. So I'm having to adjust one of those two fears and change it out for something else. But that then means I need to adjust what I've written so far, because what I've written so far has referenced that fear so many times. I'm going to reintroduce you guys to my female character and introduce you to the male main character for the first time, as well as the antagonist. If you're new to this channel, hi, my name's Amanda. I write Romantasy, and I'm currently on a 6-month journey to become an indie author by 2026 with my first novel. Before I can tell you about my characters, I'll give you a couple hints as to what the fantasy world I'm creating is all about, so that you can kind of see how the characters need to be a reflection of that. So the fantasy world that I'm creating, it's supposed to be dark, a little bit eerie. There isn't a lot of trust amongst the people that live in this realm. In this realm, there are 9 or 10 provinces total. Some of these provinces are different than others. Some of them have similar rules, beliefs, and values. However, the most prominent province is the Witches province. They are the most powerful magically, as well as the richest in terms of economy. And because of this, the other provinces seek favor with the Witches Council in order to gain access to magic, as well as better trade, and also increase the magical output within their own provinces. And they do this by attending a ceremony once every 10 years in which the witches align certain provinces with certain witches that they allow them to take back to their province and support their province. The provinces are in need of a witch for the fact that this realm is depleting in magic quickly, and also there is a magical plague occurring that is affecting certain provinces, and so they need the support of magic to better defend against the magical plague that's occurring. There are 2 magical systems in this realm. My main female character is born of one of these magical systems. The witches and the majority of the world are aligned with the other magical system, which comes in conflict for her because this particular magical system and abilities that she has, they are technically outlawed with the current political system and reigning powers declaring that divinity magic is the cause of the plague that's occurring. My main female character was discovered as a child and has been then put into servitude to the Witches Council and is forced to work as an apothecary in order to carry out the wishes of the Witch Council. She is given the nickname the Poison Master. My main male character, his current situation is that he is having to attend this ceremony hosted by the witches, even though he absolutely hates and despises witches due to his past. And he arrives at the ceremony intending to ask for favor and intending to open up trade routes to his province with other provinces. And all of that goes wrong. He realizes there is a witch on trial, which is the main female character, and she happens to be his fated mate. The Witches Council used this as an opportunity to send the female main character deep undercover into the male main character's province as both a spy and a way to sabotage his province so that they can gain from it. All the while, both of these 2 characters are having to figure out how to rectify the sickness and the plague that's occurring within his province, and figure out the fated mate bond that they have together that they both did not want, while both are also equally and obsessively falling for each other. Okay, I've got my handy dandy notebook. I took a couple minutes off screen to try to figure out the points I wanted to share with you guys about my female main character. I think I have worked her out pretty well. There's probably a few more things I could add. But what I'll share for you right now is, so her temporary name, and I say temporary because I'm writing a fantasy novel, so I feel like the name needs to be more fantastical than just an everyday name. I'm struggling with creating a name for my character. If you guys think of a name and you want to suggest a name for me, please, by all means, put it in the comment section below. I'll definitely review it, and if it feels right and you're okay with me using the name, I'll go with it. So for right now, I've named her Selene, and some of her core elements, which is her fear, misbelief, her want, and her need, I've had to adjust. The fears that I had set for Selene in the prior video was a fear of failure and a fear of disapproval. I have decided to change fear of failure to fear of vulnerability, primarily because if I kept fear of failure for this character, she'd never make the actionable choices that I need her to make in order for the certain plot points and scenes I have thought out to actually work. Because if you have a fear of failure, you're not going to be courageous enough to do anything. You're going to shy away, or you'll do it in secret, or you won't actively make the choice to do it. You would avoid making the choice in the first place. And I can't have a character like that for this particular plot line. Her fears are fear of disapproval and fear of vulnerability. Fear of disapproval is mainly about, like, she has this feeling of being unworthy, of happiness, of success, of having power, of anything and everything. And it's primarily because of the world she grows up within. This pushes her to then perform. It pushes her to want to show up in a way that's valuable and make sure that people see her that way. There's a survival aspect to that as well, because if she doesn't provide value, then the witches don't need her anymore, and then they won't need her sister anymore either. The second fear of vulnerability, this is created because she never feels safe. She's never felt safe except for once in her life. And because of fear of being vulnerable, fear of people finding out her true identity, that she's working for the witches under a different title, and that she has divine powers which are outlawed and hated across the world. She has lots of reasons to fear sharing who she truly is and being vulnerable with people. She has lots of secrets, and because of that, she never feels safe. Her history extends in this world as she's born of divine magic, which means that she uses a different magical system than the primary system that's now being accepted by the world. The primary system believes that the issues they're having these days with the magical plague and magic declining is from her heritage, the divine magic. Because of this, there were witch hunts and persecutions. The witches led these hunts against the people with divine magic. That is part of what extends into her misbelief and her fear, because anyone that has helped her in her past has suffered or died. She feels like that she doesn't deserve a safe space because everyone dies, that she's unlucky and she's unworthy of these things because of her heritage. The irony of this is that the witches were the head of the persecutions that wiped out their bloodlines, forced them into servitude to the witches. Selene has a certain power. Her sister has a second power that is different from hers. Her sister's power is more detrimental to the realm, so the witches use the sister as the leverage against Selene, forces her to work as their poison master, creating elixirs and poison for them to use against their adversary. She also works as an apothecary, equally so, doing both negative and good in the city. Working as a poison master lets her work and do live experiments within the witch's province. The caveat to this is if she is found out for doing experiments on the people, she's found out for being a poison master working with the witches, then she will actually become a scapegoat. The witches will deny all allegations. Essentially, nope, she's not one of us, right? That's actually the inciting incident that I have, is she's actually found out to have been making poison, and essentially then the people understand that she made poison by stealing magic from the Tree of God, which is essentially magic from the entire realm, because magic is declining. This works because the witches are having to resort to other means to take care of adversaries because magic is declining. So everyone in the world is having to find different ways to do things. Even though the witch province is magically centered, it's the most powerful province, and they protect the magic that they have by controlling the witches that are in existence. That means that they're not willing to use said magic in most ways, aside from unless it benefits them. So for Act 1, she wants to develop the poison so that the witches can use it on their adversaries. And for Act 2, this is where her want begins to change, as she has now just met the main male character, and they have revealed that they have a fated mate bond, regardless if they are both not interested in this. It's in both of their interests to agree to this mate bond, because this is how she will gain access to the wolf province, and this is how he will gain access to the poison master and also a witch. I'm doing this because she's not fully a witch, but I don't want to reveal that yet. And so that is how Act 2 begins, is she's now agreed to help the wolf province cure themselves of the plague, or try to find a cure for the plague and strengthen their province magically. And she's agreed to betray the wolf by giving sensitive information to the witches, who are after certain things that only the wolf province has. What does she need? She needs to learn how to overcome feeling unworthy and accept that she is deserving of love, of happiness, of safety, of power, of anything that she might desire because of her own existence. Her misbelief is she's unworthy of these things because of her heritage and her bloodline. And I take it a step further, and I said that the incident that created the misbelief is that everyone that's ever helped her, that's ever been a safe space to her, has been killed or died, suffered in some way. And that includes the mentor's son that she and her sister grew close to. He was one of her only friends who ever really knew who she was, and he unfortunately died as a result of them helping them. The son is really important because he's actually the first person that showed her what a safe space feels like, because for most of her life she's been the elder sister, she's been the one that has to be responsible, and that was the only time in her life that she actually felt like she had an older sibling that she could confide in, that would protect her, etc., etc. And now that that person is gone, she knows what that feels to have lost that. Some things I can tell you about her history. So she's living in the poorest sector of the main city and the witches province. Most of this sector has little to no magic, and they're just kind of existing the best that they can. She's hiding as a brothel maiden and is working out a contract with the brothel matron to allow her to conduct apothecary in a small building in the quarter that's attached to the brothel. And she gives 60% of her profit to the brothel matron in order to pay for her stay, and she sells her elixirs at the market. She secretly uses the elixirs that she's testing for the witches on the patrons at the brothel. She's a little bit of a gray character, if you haven't noticed. She hasn't had a relationship in years. The last one was with an older man. I'm thinking like a merchant who's also a siren. That part might adjust a little bit. The relationship ended badly. His particular powers, he would try to utilize them in small ways to get her to reveal more about herself and her secrets. He'd ask too many questions. And I think I want to have it that he betrayed her in some way by doing something that made her feel vulnerable or put her in a vulnerable predicament that she couldn't allow because her sister's life is on the line. The part that I really kind of thought over for a while is like, whose voice does she hear during her point of view chapters? And I didn't want it to be a parent because they died before she's old enough, I think, to really truly understand a lot of what they say. So I thought maybe the son of the mentor would be a great person who felt like her older brother, even though he wasn't, but that's all she knew at that time. Maybe he would be a great person to utilize as voice that the main character hears in her head. And I think that might work. It's just I was going to write him with no powers, but I don't know. Potentially I could write it that he also had powers, like maybe he was a warlock and the mentor was trying to protect all of 3 of the kids from the witches because he knew that the witches would steal his child from him. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. I like that. Okay, that's my main female character's story so far. I've gotten a little bit of everything. She feels a lot more fleshed out than when I prior wrote her profile down, and I'm gonna go with that. Let's talk a little bit about the male main character. For this segment, I have named him Kova. This is a very temporary name. Again, it has to be a fantasy name, and I haven't created anything yet, so I am just waiting on the right name to fall into my lap, apparently. But we're gonna go with Kova for right now. Kova has a fear of uncertainty and a fear of powerlessness or vulnerability physically or ability-wise. And I think I want to have his fear of uncertainty to basically extend into all aspects of his life, in that like he doesn't want there to be any uncertainty in terms of knowledge, in terms of political landscape, in terms of trade or anything. And if there is uncertainty, then he essentially wants to gain control in order to combat the fear of uncertainty that he has. So fear of powerlessness and vulnerability physically or ability wise, not emotionally. Fear of emotional vulnerability is Selene's fear. His fear is fear of vulnerability, but like physical and ability wise, powerlessness because you just don't have the power to do anything about it. And I want his fear of powerlessness and vulnerability to be shaped and come about through his society that he has created in his province. The culture and the belief in the values, the things that they do is how I'm going to showcase that fear. Because everything he does is to stay ahead and stay prepared. And so that's actually leading into his misbelief. And his misbelief is that he can't protect those that he loves if he isn't prepared. And that plays into both of his fears. And he's essentially, if I had to pick 2 words to describe his entire character, he's basically the stay ready guy. Like he's always ready. He's ready for someone to betray him. He's ready for someone to try to double cross him and things like that. Like he thinks about everything essentially. And so because of that, he's very motivated by rules, structure, rigidity, and everything having clarity. And if he doesn't have that clarity, he has a need to strive for control as well as a need to figure out what that uncertainty is and gain clarity to that. His want is going to be to gain favor with the witches and receive the support for his province, both magically and in other ways that protection extends. So magical protection, and then that would then extend to magical protection against the plague and the things that come about from the plague. That's going to be his want number 1 for Act 1. His want does change in Act 2. His want is to find a cure for the plague and to reveal all of Selene's secrets, because he feels like it's very iffy bringing her into his province, regardless if they're fated mates or not. He has never wanted a witch mate. This was the worst thing that could happen to him, fated mate bond or not, right? Like, he's determined to figure her out because she is his adversary politically, because she has fealty to the witches and they are rivals. But she also is his adversary because she's also a witch, and she also is a poison master. And his province is somewhat vulnerable because they don't have the magical support that they need, and they have to rely on her for that. Unfortunate for him, right? So he's like, okay, if I invite her in, even as my potential fated mate, which I expect nothing to come of it, then I'm really truly putting out more risk here. And if I'm going to take on this much risk, I'm going to take back even more so in control. So he wants to know all of her secrets, and he's going to then do things to effectively gain that control and gain those secrets from her, which I'm excited to write, honestly. Yes. So the origin story for how he gains his misbelief, that he can't protect those that he loves if he's not prepared, is his father and the neighboring rival province next to his province. That leader and his father were both at war for about 20 years. Thus, his province and that province could not gain any witch support because they refused to send a witch into harm's way if the province is at war. He happened to be about 8 years old when the war was finally wrapping up. There was an instance that occurred in which his friend was actually captured during the war and taken and sold to the witches' province for servitude. He became the tracker because my shifters also have an additional magical ability to sense the intention of magic or smell the use of magic and track it based on the effectively the type of signature that's given off by the magic user. They are highly valued if they are captured. His friend, being captured and sold to the witches' province, was turned into a tracker for their use and was given lots of assignments to track down people of divine magic, and has been in servitude with them since then. His friend actually sacrificed himself to save Kova. By him sacrificing himself, Kova was able to escape during this occurrence. So he has some personal grievances there. Yes, and that plays into his misbelief quite a bit. The part of Kova that I was really unsure about is like the inner voice that he hears when he is either facing down something that might help him overcome his fear or his misbelief. I wanted at first for it to be his mother because he would have spent more time with her. She would have had a large influence over him growing up. However, I think the more impactful role that could really influence his decisions is his father. Growing up, he would have had less time spent with his father than his mother, and I think there would be like this sort of anxious bond that would develop. I think because of that anxious bond between him and his father, that would make him listen to what his father said more often because he was not around. Whereas he may take for granted what his mother said because his mother's always present. And I think I like the idea of his mother being alive still, because I don't want both of my characters to just not have a living parent, you know? Like that's rough. I mean, it's a rough world. I kind of want to have one of them have a living parent. So I'm going to say that his mother is alive in that sense. Romantically, Kova hasn't dated often, but he has dated. His last relationship I'm setting as 3 years ago, that he broke it off in preparation of getting the province ready for being able to potentially gain a witch representative to help increase the magical ability and protection of their province. His province is coming out of war within the last 5 or 10 years, so there's obviously lots of issues that they would have to recover from. I'm assuming he would be really concerned and really his time would be really taken up by all of that, which is why I don't feel like his character is someone that would be actively dating. I want to have that last relationship that he had be one that he himself broke off because he's preparing for the province, but also because if he wants clarity and control, and maybe he's suspecting the people that are surrounding him in his life that are trying to become close to him may only want to be there because of the draw of the power that he holds and his titles hold. So he has 2 titles. He's a alpha leader because he's a wolf shifter, but then inside of that, he's also a province leader for a larger group of people. And because of these 2 titles, he's going to have double the heavy feeling of responsibility, rigidity, rules, and need to put the province or the group first versus personal relationships, right? Yes. Let's talk about the antagonists, and I will have basically wrapped up my main characters for this novel. So for antagonists in this novel, I have 4 of them for you guys. 4, yes. That's a lot, I know, but the way that I break them down, once you hear me say it, you'll kind of understand why I have 4 and why it works. As a reminder, this book that I'm writing right now is going to be the first book in a series of dark romantasy novels. So because this first book is the first book in a series, I have several antagonists for that reason. And the first antagonist that we actually get introduced to is going to be the rival to Kova. So Kova's father fought against the rival province. That leader had a son, and that son is Kova's rival in a lot of ways. And I thought that that would be the best antagonist for this because that would be the best person who would have the most grievance against both Kova and Selene, but would also have the most desire to act on those grievances. I don't have a name for this antagonist yet, but I think because he has so many grievances, he would have grown up in an environment where his entire province is like nursing their wounds because that province lost to Kova's province. He would have grievances from the father who wasn't able to do for the province that like he wanted. Those would fall onto this guy's shoulders, and then he would probably emanate that. Within those borders, Kova's province has some sort of resource that he wants, and that potentially even the witches want as well. I'm thinking I might make it to where there's a specific area of land that Kova's province controls, and that actually determines a lot of the trade routes within that area. And if this guy took over Kova's land, he would take ownership of that trade route and essentially have full advantage of resources and valuables that everyone needs to survive. I like that. And how this guy is the antagonist to Selene is because the group of people that Selene ends up testing out her poison on that stays at the brothel that night of the inciting incident is this guy's group of people. He now wants revenge against her. And when Selene is found out and her powers for poison are revealed, both Kova and this rival are there. So because he's there when she's found out, he feels like he has a claim to her, especially when Kova begins to petition the witches for Selene. What's going to happen is after the inciting incident, this guy is going to secretly begin working with the witches in order to take full advantage, and he's going to help push some of the conflicts that occur in that area. Because if he works with the witches, he has a better chance of gaining Kova's province and splitting it with the witches. And at the same time, the witches promise him Selene and her sister if he helps them, right? Yeah, okay. Right, we got people betraying people left and right in this story. Second antagonists are the witches, and they are technically the main antagonist of the entire series. They're not going to become the main antagonist for this first book because they slowly are revealed over time as the main antagonist in the entire series. The third antagonist is a vampire who is an enforcer for the witches. He has more of a connection to Selene through history and her bloodline. And there's more to his character than just vampire. He's like their enforcer, he's like the boogeyman, and he basically takes care of things that magic or poison cannot. He is actually introduced in book 1, he's introduced again in book 2, but he is actually the antagonist for book 3, which we find out more of his story and their backstory in book 3. The fourth antagonist is the world in general, because this world absolutely hates Selene, the societies hate Selene, the history is dictated to state that Selene and her bloodline and divinity magic are evil and they're persecuted. The beliefs of the people also reflect that, and also their treatment of people that have those abilities. And I reflect this in a lot of the exploration with the societies, and there's some comparison between the Witch Province and Kova's province, but for the most part, you'll see it kind of depicted in the dialogue and the language and the setting as well as the cultures. Okay, whoo! That was a long video, guys, but if you made it here with me, I'm glad that you did. I hope this was a great video for you as well to gently introduce you to my main characters and also the antagonists. I feel like you are now caught up, and I feel like these characters are fully fleshed out to the point that I'm comfortable to make adjustments on my story. I really hope that I can save my story and not have to start over. But if I have to start over, hey, that's the writing process, right? So, and that's okay if that's what happens. If you have any suggestions for me, if you have any comments on my characters, anything I can improve, anything that you found interesting, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it from you guys. And if there's anything else you want to see from my story go forwards, like maybe my outline or my scene by scene outline, whatever it might be, I've tried different things. Just let me know in the comments below if you're interested in further pieces of my story that I haven't shown yet to you guys. Thank you so much again for watching this video. I've posted in the description box below any playlists that you might want to check out or check up on. Primarily my Write a Book With Me playlists and also my Day in the Life playlist, in which I give tidbits of my information about my story or my characters. If you are interested in seeing more of my writing process and hearing more about my story or how my characters develop further from here, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. And I'm going to be posting videos at least once a week, but I'm trying to get to 2 times a week. So if you want to be notified of that, don't forget to hit the notification bell either up top or down below. And other than that, I hope you have a happy week, you're having a happy day, and your writing is going well if you are writing. And I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.